Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio. And now, here's our host, Dr. Vanessa Anceloni.
Welcome, dear listener, to Kardec Radio. Today, the show is about bullying, understanding and treating it. And we have here with us Dr. Vicki Panaccione, who is a leading authority in the therapy and the treatment of bullying. She is considered the world's expert in parenting. She has a beautiful website, and you can log in at betterparentinginstitute.com. So, we're talking about bullying. Maybe asking why? Well, because Kardec Radio is here to empower us, not only to understand it, to prevent it, to treat it, because day in, day out, many lives are being hurt by this disease. It's a social disease, bullying. And what does Spiritism have to do with it? Very likely Allan Kardec is a great educator. He would address it as well. And we need to follow the footsteps of our codifier. And if we go to the Spirit's book in Questions and Answers about the Law of Progress, he asks the questions about how can intellectual progress actually lead to moral progress. And this is what this show is all about. Let us boost our intellect so it can lead us into moral progress. Because when he asked that question, the answer he got from the illuminated minds was, by making good and evil understandable. For then humans can choose between the two. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the responsibility of humans for their acts. This is question 780 of the Spirit's book, and you can find it in ebook format at edisayofamerica.com or at amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, and anywhere else, also in paperback format. So the show today is about that. But before we open the line to Dr. Vicki Panaccione, who is going to lead us into new understanding about this social issue, bullying, how to understand it, treat it, prevent it, we are going to share with you that Kardec Radio now has listeners in more than 60 countries around the world. Kardec Radio is here to help all of us. And you can listen to previous episodes by going to iTunes and freely downloading all of these shows. And we want to share with you that the campaign, I Honor My Parents, is up and running. So much so that the show today is dedicated to empowering parents in their missions so they can lead their children to God. And that's why we're talking about bullying today. We are now going to leave you with a beautiful inspirational message. When we come back after the first break, we're going to bring to you new enlightenment about parenting for those who are experiencing bullying or who are actually the very bullies. We need to empower parents so their families are better and healthier. When we come back, Dr. Vicki Panaccione with us at Kardec Radio.
Silent attitude.
A popular proverb says, silence gives consent, but this is not always so. Silence is more than mere compliance. Some people consent because they fear conflict. Others consent to avoid fruitless argument or to safeguard personal interests. There is a dynamic type of silence, though. It is wisdom that keeps silent when fools chatter and violent persons yell. Wise people will speak only when asked. Their words clarify and illuminate. Wisdom implies self-balance and discipline. It reveals self-control of one's emotions. We must free ourselves from all base passions because they degrade, consume, and torture. Many people talk without thinking. Careless and thoughtless talking raises conflicts, throws people against each other, and disturbs the community. Silence, however, should not turn into obstinate sulkiness, indifference, or contempt. We advise silence only to avoid idle discussions, fruitless debates, or needless self-defense. To react through hot argument is rather easy, but to listen patiently to aggression and defamation asks for a noble, stoic behavior, an attitude that benefits both yourself and your opponent, spreading peace around you. Forget the evil done to you and do whatever good you can. Your actions will speak for you. If people do not respect you, they will not agree with you anyway. Do not let yourself be disturbed by affront. It usually comes from irresponsible persons who ignore their own limitations. Time is too precious to be wasted on trifles. Praise or approval will not make you a better person. Likewise, insults, abuse, or malice will not lessen your virtues. Attend to your duties and wait patiently. Keep in mind that the allotment of time is the same to everyone, but each person uses it differently. Allan Kardec, who codified the Spiritist doctrine, never paid attention to what people thought of him. Neither did he enter into unprofitable debates. Thought his opponent needed an answer. He offered luminous pages of spiritual wisdom, demonstrating the excellence of spiritualist concepts, grounded on the ethical and moral philosophy of the gospel. These same concepts are now being demonstrated by science through innumerable experiments which enhance a new spiritual awareness, and this awareness will help mankind to reconsider attitudes and feelings so that spiritual ascent may be accelerated.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
Join us every Thursday live, Evolution in Two Worlds, a journey of the soul through the teachings of the Spirit Doctor, Andrea Luiz. Connect at www.tvcei.com, Channel 2.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
We are here to talk about bullying, how we understand it, and also treat it, and best case scenario, prevent it. So we brought here a leading expert in the field, Dr. Vicki Panaccione. She has been called the world's expert in parenting and the Oprah Winfrey of families. She's an international recognized child psychologist, speaker, parent coach, media specialist, consultant, best-selling author, and radio personality who has dedicated her 25-year career to working with hundreds of children and helping thousands of parents raise happy, successful kids. Now, she's also the author of the award-winning What Kids Would Tell You If You Only Would Ask in Your Child's Inner Brilliance, Parent's Guide to Discovery. She has been co-author of 8 books, and contributed with other best-selling books together with, for example, Dr. Wayne Dyer. She is much sought after by the media. She has been publishing articles in the New York Times, Reader's Digest, People, Parenting Magazine, Parents Magazine, Life and Style, Woman's Day, OK, Family Circle, and other websites such as Newsday, Good Housekeeping, WebMD, Forbes, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, iParenting, and Love to Know. She also has a radio program at Heartbeat Radio for Women. Her radio program is entitled Kids Are From Krypton, Parents Are From Pluto. And she has a lot to share with us. Thank you so much, Dr. Vicki Panaccione, for being with us today.
Good morning. I am absolutely delighted to be here, especially since we're going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to my heart.
Dr. Vicki, you also have this radio show that talks about parenting. Can you tell us more about it so the listener can also access that and empower themselves in their parenting skills?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I do a weekly show, 10:30 to 11 Eastern Time, on a radio station called Heartbeat Radio for women and the men who love them. Mm-hmm. And you can hear it live stream every Friday morning at www.heartbeatradiott, that's TomTom, .com, and the TT is for Trinidad Tobago, which is where the radio station is headquartered.
Now, Dr. Vicki, about bullying. You said before that bullying is very dear to your heart, the topic in itself. Why is that so?
Well, I think that bullying is something that is becoming more and more and more prevalent. And I have a private practice in Melbourne, Florida, and I work with children. And this topic seems to be coming up more and affecting more children. And I work with them almost daily on this particular issue of them being bullied in some way. And I am concerned also about the fact that we need to distinguish between bullying, which maybe we should start out by defining, and normal teasing, because I think that there really is a difference. And there are kids that will tease each other and pick on each other a little bit, and that's normal child development. But when we talk about bullying, it goes beyond the normal curve.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you're talking about the importance of defining bullying, what is the difference between bullying and normal teasing?
Well, bullying is really when a person is picked on over and over again by either an individual or a group that has more power or is exerting more power, either physically or in social standing. So that's different than teasing. If you have two kids who are teasing each other on the playground, they basically are the same in stature, and nobody is powerful over the other one. But bullying comes in when one child is feeling really beaten down, and the other one is, if you get a picture of it in your mind, with one seems to be bigger and looming over a smaller, towering sort of figure, that would be a good visual of bullying.
Well, children have a hard time discriminating things because they haven't been taught about them. It's like, for example, emotions. We talk about emotions and we ask our children, what do you feel? And they say, I don't know. Of course they don't know because we never taught them to identify it. So in regards to bullying, what is the best approach to teach our children regarding? Is there a way to teach them to discriminate between bullying and teasing when they are also being the bullies, for example, and they think they're just being playful, but there's no playfulness in that regard? And what can actually be done to empower them in the difference between normal teasing and bullying?
Gosh, that is a great question. That is really a great question, because here's one of the issues that kids get into dealing with and they get confused about. We tell kids not to be a tattletale, right?
Yes.
And I think because kids are being taught Just don't tattle on each other. Don't be coming and telling me things. And parents say that, teachers say that, and we don't want them to come to us with every little thing that we think that they should be able to manage themselves. But because of that, I think a lot of children don't know where to cross the line. When it's, okay, I really ought to manage it myself, and it's just somebody teasing me, or I just need to stick my tongue out at them to get to, versus it's really being a bullied situation. And so I think what I say to kids is I try to teach them things that they can say to kids. I mean, if somebody's picking on them or teasing them, what can they do back? Or can they just walk away? Or can they just say something back that won't get them in trouble? And will that be the end of it? Is this really somebody who's usually your friend and you're just having a quarrel? Versus if it's somebody who repeatedly, time and time again, who is not your friend, who you don't play with, you're not just having a quarrel, and for a reason you may not even understand, they're just saying mean things or doing mean things to you. That's where we draw the line, I think.
So as you're talking about that, Dr. Panaccione, it's let us create a scenario here. Of course, it's fictitious. Somebody who uses eyeglasses. And you have a friend, and then they start teasing you. Oh, you have eyeglasses, your 4 eyes, etc., whatever they say. And they keep picking on you. And then one day you grow up, you still have that friend, and you're an adult, and you don't use eyeglasses anymore. But that friend, every time he or she sees you, they remind you of the time in which you looked different, you looked chubby, you looked, like 4-eyed, etc. Is this bullying? What is that? Is this friendship?
Well, I think that can certainly cross the line. Particularly if you have a friend who's teasing you, and you say, this really hurts my feelings, or stop it, or the friend can see that it's bothering you, or you've said over and over again, you've tried to say things like, yeah, I might have 4 eyes, but I don't have big ears, or, whatever you try to come back on. And if it doesn't work, at some point, if you've tried to do things and it's not working and you're starting to feel victimized or picked on, then I think it crosses into bullying. And I think that when kids feel really badly about what somebody's doing to them, especially, again, if it's more than once, unless it's physical. I mean, if somebody's going to physically bully you, I don't think it has to happen more than once. But if somebody says something about your glasses, and the next day they do, and the next day they do, and it's really starting to make you feel bad, and you feel like there's nothing you can do, then I think it's important to tell somebody. And a friend can become not a friend. I mean, you may think somebody is your friend, but friends don't really pick on you. Friends can tease you, okay, but it's more playful. With teasing, there's more of a playful quality, and kids will do that. But with bullying, there's no playing in that. There's the sum total reason for bullying is to put that other person down and to make them feel bad.
Yeah, that is the line. So being playful. When there is no playfulness around, then we can tell there is a difference between teasing and bullying, right? So you're not being funny anymore because that person is truly being hurt. And as you say, true friendship, what is true friendship? It really doesn't put us down, right?
Right. And if you're a friend, I mean, kids don't really have that understanding unless we teach them that. So if a friend's going, you have 4 eyes, you got, whatever they're doing, they're teasing. And if someone were to say, like, say their mother says, that's really hurting Johnny's feelings, a friend isn't going to keep doing that because the intent was never to hurt. It was just to tease. A bully won't stop. In fact, if they feel like they're hurting your feelings, they'll do it more. If that's their intent. So that's really, the bullying is to hurt. Teasing is either to tease, or teasing can also be to work out a situation if there's a little bit of friendly competition between 2 kids, or my brother can beat you up, or kids will do that. But I think it's the repetition, It's the intent. And it usually comes from people who really aren't your friends, where the bullying really starts. It's almost like, I don't even understand why this person is saying anything to me.
Now, Dr. Vicki, is there a difference between bullying in childhood and bullying in adulthood? And what would be the supposed root causes of bullying?
Well, first of all, the main difference, I think, in bullying as kids and bullying as adults is at some point it crosses a line to where some behaviors will become illegal. For instance, if kids are pushing each other and shoving, they'll get in trouble. But if an adult does that, then that could be assault and battery, and they can be arrested. So some of the bullying behaviors, if they don't learn not to do them, can really bring legal consequences. Or slander, libel, those kinds of things. So what children may be able to say to each other, they're not committing crimes. There's not a law against it. So that's why we want to teach them in childhood what's okay and what's not okay, because at some point they can get themselves in legal trouble. But I do think that there's kind of a bullying personality or mentality, and if kids are bullied and allowed to bully, they will grow up. Now, they may not be pushing it, but they will grow up with that kind of bullying sort of personality that they can sort of throw their weight around and put people down, and they almost have to put people down in order for themselves to feel good or to raise themselves up. They don't feel superior. They have to feel good about themselves by feeling superior, and the only way they can be superior is to be making someone else inferior, and that can become really a personality type.
So, major part of communication is nonverbal, says science. It's quite surprising to many people because we think we only consider the verbal part of it. So, can we extrapolate that there is a form of nonverbal bullying? And if yes, what is it?
Oh, I think that there's all kinds of posturing that can be bullying-type posturing, or certainly wanting to either harass or make you feel smaller. And it can be the position of the body, if somebody stands while you're sitting, or if they get too close in your space, can feel very invasive. The looks on their faces can really communicate whether they're happy with you or not happy with you. So there's a lot that can be said without having spoken any words. You're absolutely right. And I think bullying behaviors can become part of a person's kind of physical, kind of a personality persona if they learn to do it and they continue and they get away with it. So if a child or a teenager learns that there are certain things they do that will get people out of their way, or they get to the front of the line, or just kind of shoving people away or whatever, they're going to learn to keep doing that because it works for them. That's why it's so important that we help kids who are bullies, that we help them learn not to do that when they're children. Otherwise, they will continue with that behavior through their life because it works. I mean, we do what works. And the only reason kids stop tantruming is because we stop giving into it. Or they learn that there's other things to do that work for them better. And so bullying behavior really needs to be addressed to the point where it no longer works.
So we're going to a short break. When we come back, Dr. Vicki Panaccione here with us.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Kardec Radio, live, every Saturday at 11 a.m.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
The newest edition of the Medium's book by Allan Kardec is now available. Purchase your copy online or via your ebook reader. Simply go to www.edicofamerica.com today.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
Join us every Thursday live, Evolution in Two Worlds, a journey of the soul through the teachings of the Spirit Doctor, Andrea Louise. Connect at www.tvcei.com, Channel 2.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
Spiritism for Everyone, the online study of the Spirit's Book and the Gospel according to Spiritism. Spiritism for Everyone meets every Wednesday evening and Saturday morning using the latest technology in web conferencing. You can join in from any computer in the comfort of your home or office, no matter where you are in the U.S. or the world. Spiritism for Everyone is open, free, and requires no registration. To access the web live meetings, go to www.spiritus.us. Spiritism for Everyone is a program of the United States Spiritist Council.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we're here talking about bullying and the personality of bullying. Dr. Vicki, as in the first part, you were talking about the difference between normal teasing and bullying childhood, bullying adulthood, the true value of friendship that really does not put us down. How can we understand the mind of a bully?
Well, kids don't start out with personality traits. I mean, their personality develops through childhood. And so their personality develops based on, again, what works for them and what doesn't work for them. And I'm not a personality specialist because my expertise is in child, but I do see how personality sort of evolves. And I guess the bottom line question is, who are the bullies and why do kids bully? And I think that a lot of bullies share common characteristics. They like to dominate others, and they generally are focused on themselves. And sometimes they have no feeling of empathy or caring towards other people. They amuse themselves at the expense of other people. However, a lot of bullies, I think, they seem like they feel like they're really hot stuff and all that, and almost they have the right to push people around because they're in the popular group or they're good looking or whatever, or they're jocks. But a lot of bullies really underneath that are insecure, and the way they feel good about themselves is, the way I feel good about me is to not be you. And so they will pick on people who are less powerful than they, and in hurting others or putting others down, they feel like they're the superior people.
So could we say, Dr. Vicki, that there is a central theme in which people bully other people?
I think that there are a couple of maybe central themes. One is almost a sense of entitlement of just, I am just so much better than you. And anybody who's not me or my social class or my athletic prowess or whatever, I'm going to be able to put down because I'm just so much better. So it's almost a sense of importance and entitlement and being able to look down my nose at anybody who isn't like myself. And it's easy to find things to tease kids about and to pick on. I mean, nobody's perfect. So you're either too short, too tall, fat, skinny, wearing glasses, has brown hair. I mean, you can find anything. So if you want to pick on somebody, there's always something that you can find. But they tend to pick on the ones where there's some outward feature that's pretty easy to spot, that either it's a physical feature or some kind of limiting or handicapping condition, something that they spot, and they'll pick on the ones that won't stand up to them. Because that's the other thing about bullying. They don't want you to stand up to them. I mean, they only pick on the weak.
Exactly. So what is the mind of the victims of bullying? Because it feels like sometimes they are good magnets of bullying. So is there like a profile of the bully victim?
Yes. Well, I think that's very true, and because you can actually almost go into a school and look around and almost guess the kids who might be bullied, and they stand out in some way. They may be very awkward, they may be very heavy, they look down at their feet. You can almost see the kids who could easily get picked on, and they tend to be the ones who don't feel as good about themselves. And that comes across. Yes, they're already not feeling good about themselves, because if somebody's carrying themselves with a lot of confidence and feels good about themselves, whether they're heavy, whether they're wear glasses, whatever, they're not really victim material. And because they really send a message that says, hey, I'm okay. I feel good about myself. You can't get into me. But it's the ones that already look kind of downtrodden or really different than other people. Because if you're really different, kids tend to feel less good about themselves if they feel that they're different from other kids. So they really are targets. They're really targets. And that's why it's very important that we teach kids just to feel good about who they are. And also that to understand that, there may be things that kids can teach you about. For instance, I worked with this girl who was very tall, and she was very self-conscious, and she walked with her shoulders slumped over and so on, trying to really reduce her height. And kids would make fun of her and call her Jolly Green Giant and how's the air up there, and things like that. But the bottom line is that she was a target for that, but the only reason they kept doing it is because it bothered her. And so one of the things that I taught her to do, and this is what we have to do with kids, because they might be bullies. So we want to teach kids not to bully, but we also want to teach kids what to do when somebody picks on you. And the world is going to pick on you, Vanessa, in some way, right? In some way or other, they're going to pick on you. And to be able, so for this girl who couldn't do anything about her height, she was already wearing flats and, she couldn't do anything about her height. I said, well, what can you say to these kids? Like, wow, got great eyes, or wow, aren't you smart to notice how tall I am? Or, some kind of comeback that makes them go, whoa, she's putting it back on me. And I always teach kids, if we're going to teach you to do comeback, say something that's not going to get you in trouble. I don't want her coming back and making fun of a trait of theirs, because then she's no better than they are.
At the beginning of the show, Dr. Vicki, you talked about the increasing number of bully victims or bullying in general. Do you think there is any association between that increase and the increased levels of obesity in the United States of America, for example? I know it's an epidemic. Even HBO has recently launched a campaign together with the National Institutes of Health in the United States. It's called The Weight of the Nation, and it talks about the need of creating new awareness and, changing it. So do you think there is a correlation, a possible correlation between the higher rate of bullying and the higher level of obesity in the United States?
I think that there's a lot of things that are causing more of this to happen, but certainly we have, that could go either way. We have more obese children than ever before. But you would think that if more and more people are obese, that it would be less tempting to kid them, because it's just becoming more of a commonality. But I do think that the obese children still are teased. I see somebody in my office who's very obese, but he really likes himself. And he says, if everybody would just leave me alone, I'm really happy. But the fact that they make fun of me hurts my feelings. It's disrespectful. And I talk to him about, well, are they right? When they call you fat, are they right? Because when they called this girl Jolly Green Giant, they were right. He's very tall. When they talk about him being fat, he is fat, and he'll admit that. Yeah, okay, I'm fat, but I wish they wouldn't say it. I said, I understand that. But why do you let them get to you with something that is the truth? Or why do you care? See, the other thing for me in terms of managing bullying is, why do you care what that person thinks? Now, when it's verbal, it's one thing, but the kids are also pushing him into lockers and things like that, and that's where, I mean, once somebody lays their hand on you in a bullying gesture, that's time to get to the authorities, to get to somebody who can step in. That's not okay. And I don't want kids fighting in retaliation, so sometimes they have to do that. There are so many ways now to make fun of kids or to bully each other, and we don't even have to do it in person anymore. I mean, the kids have all kinds of other ways, through text messages and emails and on Facebook and through the phones, and that I think people are getting a little bolder because they can do it. They don't even have to be in person. And so I think that more and more kids are taking the risk of bullying because they can hide behind the technology.
But could we say that school should also play a role in prevention and treatment of bullying? Or is our system, especially the educational system, failing at some level?
I think there are a lot of things the system is lacking in and needs to do. Because, for instance, if a student is cyberbullying another student, the school says, sorry, it's not on school grounds. And we really don't have any authority to intervene. It's kind of like if students fight in the school playground versus one block down the road, one situation the school is going to get involved, and the other situation it's not. But there are other schools that are starting to take a different stand and basically saying, if you're my student, we can intervene. The other thing that's happening, because the other thing too is we've gotten to be a very suit-happy world. Everything is, we'll take you to court, we'll sue you, and so everybody is trying to be so politically correct that if a student goes to the teacher, goes to the office and says, so-and-so punched me or pushed me, so often now the authorities are saying, I'm sorry, we didn't see it. If we don't see it, there isn't anything we can do to intervene. So now many kids are feeling unprotected at school because unless it's seen or unless it's heard, the authorities aren't dealing with it. Now, a lot of the bullies are much smarter and say, okay, I'm not going to push you, I'm not going to call you a name when there's a teacher in the hallway, which is why some schools are putting in surveillance systems now, so that they can pull the film and go, oh, yes, right here on film, I see you shoving him into a locker. So we're not taking kids' words for it anymore because there's this whole sense of prove it. It's his word against mine. And so I think the system needs to, first of all, I think be a little bit more reasonable. If you've got this real chubby kid who's coming in and saying he's pushing me in the locker, that they ought to be able to listen to that. But they're not. So filming is important, although now we get into this big brother situation where everything's going to be monitored and we're really telling kids your word doesn't matter.
So then who creates the bully? Are parents the ones who really set them up for it, predispose them to that? Is that possible?
It varies. It does. I mean, there are some parents who are absolutely shocked when they're informed of their child's bullying behavior because the child keeps that hidden and it comes out. And sometimes the reason it comes out is because he's with his peer group. And so when you kind of are together, you have those whole group dynamics where you become a little bolder and braver because you get the support of others. And so sometimes parents are surprised, but other times it really is an attitude from the home. And not that parents are saying go be bullies, but if you see parents who are overly bigoted or very critical, and so the child is growing up in a home where I say he, but there are girl bullies as well, but that the child is hearing, oh, that jerk or that fatso or that black guy or that, whatever. I mean, if they're hearing that, then they're being raised with a sense of looking for differences and criticizing differences, as opposed to being in an environment where differences are either not spoken at all, I mean, because it's no big deal, whether you're black, white, tall, short, skinny, whatever, or that we're respectful of them. So it can kind of be a mindset, too, that it's easier to pick on people if you're learning, if you're growing up with that attitude of there are people that aren't as good as we are, or that there are characteristics to complain about or to put down. So it can just be kind of an attitude. Now, there are other kids that bully because they're being bullied at home, or abused or mistreated in some way. And there are a lot of kids who are bullying because they're very insecure, and the only way they can feel good about themselves is to put somebody else down, and maybe because they're being put down somewhere. There's a lot of reasons for bullying. Either that sense of, I'm so much better than you and entitled, or I'm very insecure.
Dear listener, we're going to a short break now. When we come back, Dr. Panaccione is going to tell us more about the consequences, possibility of trauma formation.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Hi, this is Nara Venditti with Succeed in America by Packaging Your Brilliance, helping foreign-born and immigrant professionals succeed in the American workplace. Our topic today is how to pronounce S sound. S as in smile. This is a hissing sound. Some Brazilian Portuguese speakers substitute this sound for Z at the beginning of the word. Most non-native speakers often omit final S sound in plural noun forms. Many Middle Eastern and Spanish speakers add a vowel before the initial S if it's followed by a consonant. For instance, state is state. How to pronounce it? Blow air between the tip of your tongue and your teeth. This sound is similar to snake hissing. Practice. Hiss, science, asks, standard, proceed, task, exception, classification. Try to extend the sound when you're practicing. Hiss, science, asks, standard, proceed, task, exception, classification. Here's a funny tongue twister to practice the sound. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Repeat after me. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. And now faster. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. This is Nara Venditti with Succeed in America by Packaging Your Brilliance. If you have any questions, please email at nara@succeedinamerica.com. That's SUCCEED in America.com. And thank you for listening.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
For the first time ever, the book Between Heaven and Earth by the Spirit André Luiz, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is now in English. This is a novel that offers information about the relationship that exists in the activities of the Spirit on the two planes of life. Purchase your copy today at www.edysayofamerica.com.
Nourish Your Soul with Kardec Radio.
Now in English, the book Action and Reaction by the Spirit André Luiz, psychographed by Chico Xavier. Buy your copy online or via your ebook reader. Go to www.edysayofamerica.com today. The International Spiritist Council is organizing and promoting the 7th World Spiritist Congress, which will be held in Havana, Cuba on March 23rd through the 25th of 2013. The Congress theme will be Charity and Spiritual Education in Building a World of Peace. 150 years of the Gospel according to Spiritism. For more information, please visit www.7cem.org.
And now we return to our program.
Dear listener, we're back here at Kardec Radio talking about bullying. And by the way, this show is being retransmitted by our sister radio, if we can call us that, Bezerra Online Web Radio at spiritist.com. And they are located in Miami, Florida, and they are retransmitting our programs. Take a look at that. Dr. Vicki, we now would like to know more about the consequences of bullying. And is it possible to form a trauma?
Well, I haven't actually diagnosed that, but certainly I can agree that does happen, because children who are bullied can experience all kinds of negative physical effects or emotional effects. I see a lot of them who become very depressed or very anxious. There's a lot of feelings of sadness or loneliness, and really not feeling good about themselves, feeling very victimized and very kind of abused. And you can see all kinds of effects of that, including decreasing in their grades and problems with sleep or eating, loss of interest in their activities. And that definitely, what I just did is basically describe symptoms of a post-traumatic stress disorder. But what happens is, PTSD is basically a disorder that you can diagnose after the fact. Mm-hmm. So if children have been bullied, and they can grow up feeling very victimized and putting themselves in other victimizing sort of situations. And so I don't diagnose it because I'm seeing it really in the process. And PTSD tends to be as a result of. But yes, your other expert is absolutely right that if it's not stopped, if the effects are not treated, I can see children definitely growing up with it's because bullying can be a trauma, mm-hmm. just like any other trauma. Exactly. And when we see kids committing suicide over it. How much more traumatized can you be than to say, I can no longer live because of it?
Mm-hmm. Dr. Vicki, would you consider bullying a moral issue in regard of, are we lacking values here, moral values, when we engage into that type of mindset?
Certainly, I think we could make an argument for that, absolutely, because we're not valuing each other. When you're bullying somebody, you're certainly not valuing that person. You don't have respect for that individual. You don't see that individual as like yourself. And that, I believe that we're all in this together, mm-hmm. and that we all share this world. But the kids that are bullying does not have respect for that other person, and sometimes they don't have respect for themselves. Because if you're really good about yourself, you don't need to do that to other people.
Dr. Vicki, from your experience, we don't want to be simplistic, but is it possible to prevent bullying? And if yes, how so?
I think first and foremost it comes down to teaching children to be respectful of each other, to value and to care for each other and be kind and grateful. So absolutely those are values or a moral foundation, as we're suggesting, that comes right from the beginning of their upbringing by how parents raise their kids. Mm-hmm. Again, if you're raised in a loving home where you respect others and parents are a good example of that, they talk kindly of other people, they treat other people with respect and with caring, that's the kind of model that those kids are going to grow up with, and it's highly unlikely that if you grow up with that kind of moral foundation that you're going to become somebody who bullies others. It's because it'd be contrary to your whole being, your whole philosophical outlook.
Now, a major question that comes to us from our listeners is, how can one prevent being a magnet of bullying?
So how do you prevent someone from being the victim?
Exactly.
The other thing to do is to really teach kids to feel good about themselves. And it really comes out, it's about self-esteem. Because if you feel good about yourself, then you're not going to let the verbal blows in. You're going to be able to, first of all, not draw it. You're not going to be a magnet for it in the first place because you don't look like a target. Now, and I'm talking about really kind of how you carry yourself and what you do, because if you're heavy, you're heavy. And if you walk with a limp or you talk with a lisp or whatever, I mean, you just do. But you still need to be able to feel okay about yourself. I feel good about myself. Yeah, I've got these things that aren't working right or I'm limited, but I'm still a great person. And we need to really help our kids develop that sense of self. And so that whatever attacks them, that they can withstand it because they still think they're an okay person. I mean, I'm a great person even though I wear glasses. I'm a great person even though I'm in a wheelchair. I'm a great person even though I'm fat. You know, that we need to say, okay, these are the things that we're not perfect about, but inside me, I'm a good person. And so not being the target, not being the magnet, is really that whole sense of you can see it, whether kids are confident or not confident. And you can be confident no matter what you look like. So it's that sense of self-confidence and self-esteem that I matter. I am okay and I matter. And the way we do that is to value our kids and validate them and not put them down and raise them to feel confident and capable and worthwhile. And that's with unconditional love and caring and treating our kids respectfully.
Dr. Vicki, you're talking about how to boost the child's self-esteem, self-confidence. You have a book that talks about it, which is Your Child's Inner Brilliance. Can you explain more how parents and educators can be this helper to empower their children?
Yes. Your Child's Inner Brilliance is a parent guide, and it's really all about recognizing and discovering who your child really is, their traits, their talents, their interests, and how you can help your child unfold to be the person that he or she is meant to be. And all of our kids have what I call brilliance, their uniqueness inside, that if we help to discover it and bring it out, then our children are becoming who they're supposed to be, and they can feel good about it because we're nurturing their talents, we're nurturing and valuing their traits, and they get to be a healthy person feeling good about who they are.
What about now? You're talking about parents teaching that to their children, but the question is, how can they teach something if they don't know themselves? So should also parents learn about their inner brilliance?
Right. I think I want to say a few things about that. One is that the most important thing that parents can do is to be a good example, because that's really how children learn the most, is by watching the example. And then I also think that as your child is growing and if they're misbehaving or someone, be sure that you are, as a parent, are disciplining that and not letting them get away with it, because it's interesting. There's a little YouTube that came on Facebook, and it was about a little boy, maybe he might be 2 years old, who kept trying to hug this 2-year-old girl. And he's very, 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 very persistent. I mean, he goes to hug her, she pushes him away. He goes to hug her, he pushes him away. I mean, he had to do that about 20 different times. And he kept doing it. And so, and the post on Facebook was, isn't this so cute? Isn't he so persistent? And I didn't find it really cute because, first of all, there is an adult filming this. Mm-hmm. And an adult watching this little one continue to accost this girl and do nothing about it. And if you're filming it, you're really supporting it. You're agreeing it. And is it, I think people say, oh, this is so harmless. It's just this cute little boy trying to get a hug. But I think it can start that early. At some point teaching, this isn't okay. She's pushing you away. If she's pushing you away, that's saying no. If somebody's saying no, you need to stop. And I think it can start there. So if we find behaviors cute and we record them and we laugh about them, we're encouraging them. And so I think that being a good role model and also dealing with behaviors as they come along. So if a parent is really surprised to find out that their child is bullying, I really encourage them to take some serious action rather than blow it off or, oh, not my child, or laugh about it or something like that. But to really make a clear message that says this kind of behavior is not okay and will not be tolerated.
What about now? You're talking about parents teaching that to their children, but the question is, how can they teach something if they don't know themselves? So should also parents learn about their inner brilliance?
Right. Well, and the early signs are certainly to be more aggressive, to be not a team player or not very friendly and not sharing and things like that. You can even see that in little ones. Now, I'm not going to say that every little one who does that's going to grow up to be bullies. I'm not. And little children are aggressive, or they'll try to take toys away and things like that. But I think it's how the parent deals with it as to whether, if your child is particularly aggressive or particularly critical, I think that you need to deal with that, because they can continue that pattern. Again, if it works for them, they'll continue to do that.
So as we are coming to the last part of our program, Dr. Panaccione, we want to ask you this question that was sent to us by a listener. You know, dear listener, you can send more questions and we'll certainly forward them to Dr. Panaccione. Now, for a parent and educator who is out there right now and just realize that their kid is either a bully or a bullied victim, what should be their first step into remedying it?
Communication. Always communication is talk to your child. If from listening to this or any other way you're saying, gee, I wonder if my child is being bullied, or I wonder if my child is being a bully, to open up the lines of communication. And I say open the lines because it's really easy to close them down very quickly if you come at them with an accusation, for instance. But it could be even as simple as, I listened to this really great radio show, and they were talking about bullying, and it made me really wonder about what you have to deal with. And do you know anybody who gets bullied, or what's going on with your friends? And you can just kind of open the topic and let them start talking about it. And if you give them permission, and maybe not even about themselves, but the topic in general, then you may get some opinions and get some insights into how they feel, and then you can morph the conversation more and more toward themselves. But communication is always the key.
Now, Dr. Vicki, we cannot thank you enough for being here with us. We just want to share with your contact with our listener so they can contact you directly at betterparentinginstitute.com, right? And there you have your phone number and also your Facebook contact for each one of them. I think it's phenomenal. Now, what about a final comment for our listeners regarding this overall idea about how we should understand bullying, etc.? What would be your final recommendation to our listeners?
Well, I think it's important, again, to address the issue. Don't just wonder about it and maybe not, but really to address it and bring it to your child to talk about, or if you need to talk to the teacher or your spouse, but don't hide from it, because this is really becoming a big problem that people are not necessarily talking about, and it needs to be. And if your child is not feeling safe at school, please go to school and say, what is the policy and what are we going to do about this? And at some point, it'll be important for you to be an advocate for your child.
Dr. Vicki Panaccione, thank you so much for being with us at Kardec Radio today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Enjoy this new release. Reborn for Love, of the renowned Brazilian scientist and researcher on reincarnation, Dr. Hernani Andrade. This novel describes one of the most extraordinary and genuine cases of reincarnation ever studied by Dr. Andrade's Brazilian Institute of Psychobiophysics Research in Sao Paulo State. Order your copy now roundtable.uk, at gmail.com, or at www.roundtablepublishing-uk.com.
Spiritist Network, your gateway to on-demand Spiritist videos. www.spiritistnetwork.com.
Spread the word. Kardec Radio, to learn more about Spiritism.
Want to find a good way to explain life after physical death to kids or teenagers? Check out the book Message from a Teen in the Spirit World by the Spirit Neo Lucio and psychographed by Chico Xavier. In this book, a teenager named Carlos explains his impressions on the new life in the spirit realm with his discarnate relatives and new friends. Purchase your copy online at www.ssbaltimore.org.
The Spiritist Magazine is a trimestral digital periodical that publishes the latest news on the Spiritist thought and the movement in the USA and worldwide. Subscribe now at www.spiritistmagazine.com.
In the book, A Primer on Being Good by the Spirit May May, psychographed by the medium Chico Xavier, explains in simple language appropriate for children two paths in life, the path of good or the path of evil. God has granted us the freedom to choose either one. Purchase your copy online at www.ssbaltimore.org.
Now we return to our program.
Dear listener, in the show today we had much to learn about bullying and how much it affects many lives. It's not about children themselves, adults, families. It can be a true social tragedy. Today we're going to pray at the end of the show for all the children who are victims of bullying, but not only the victims, but for the very ones who create such unhappiness in people's lives. Why did we bring Dr. Panaccione here? Because as Allan Kardec says in the Spirit's book, question 780, how can intellectual progress lead to moral progress? And the illuminated Spirit said, by making good and evil understandable, for then humans can choose between the two. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the responsibility of humans for their acts. It's likely that from a Spiritist perspective, bullying is a form of, negative interaction with others. Depending on the level and the degree, it can be a true obsessive case. Discarnates can create true spiritual obsessions onto incarnates through bullies, and incarnates to incarnates as well. When we read chapter 23 of the Medium's book, Allan Kardec talks about the different levels of obsession, which is this persistent negative influence that one mind can exert over another mind or many minds. So this can also characterize bullying. It can be a true obsession, and no wonder some people commit suicide, because there's so many different levels of obsession. And as Dr. Vicki Panaccione was saying, the root cause of the bully mind, is in this inner weakness, and you compensate by undermining somebody else. So it's what we are talking about, the human mind being ill, being infirm. So one more reason for us to pray for those who become bullies in our lives. If you've ever experienced this, we need to take a new spiritual approach. And only Spiritism brings that awareness. Let us do what Jesus suggested to us. Pray for our enemies. Because really, they don't know what they are doing. Because if they knew it, they wouldn't do it. Because it's sick. So we pray for those who persecute us, who tease us. Because a happy mind does not bully others. You never. Can you portray Jesus bullying others? St. Francis? Gandhi? Mother Teresa? No, of course not. They are healthy minds. Only unhealthy minds waste their time putting people down. But the question is, why are these people putting other people down? Because they're feeling down. Because when you're feeling good, you don't do that to others. They really need our compassion, our mercy, and our prayers. And that's what we're going to do at the end of the show today. Now, you enjoy the segments with Kirsten de Mello at Spiritist Moment, the Got It Home with Norwood Fonseca and Gabi Ferreira, and also beautiful segment with Marcel. And at the end of the show, we're going to pray for all those who are victims of bullying or were once and still live in the afterlife, and the bullies themselves.
In a provincial sanitarium, there was a boy of approximately 8 to 10 years old whose condition was difficult to describe. He was designated as number 4. He was completely contorted, whether as the result of a congenital deformity or as the result of the disease itself. His twisted legs touched his neck, and he was so gaunt that his bones were about to tear through his skin. His body was covered with sores, and his suffering was atrocious. He belonged to a poor Jewish family, and his sad condition had lasted 4 years. He was remarkably intelligent for his age. His sweetness, his patience, and his resignation were uplifting. The physician under whose care he had been placed was touched by compassion for the poor, nearly abandoned child. His parents seldom seemed to come to visit him, and he took a special interest in him. He enjoyed chatting with him, charmed by his intellectual precociousness. Not only did he treat him kindly, but when his duties would permit, he would read to him and marvel at his rectitude of judgment on matters that seemed beyond his age. One day the boy said to the physician, "Doctor, please be so kind as to give me some more of the same pills as the last ones." "But why, my child?" replied the physician. "I've given you enough already, and I'm afraid a bigger dose might be harmful." "Well, it's just that I'm suffering so much I've been trying not to cry, and I've prayed to God to give me strength not to disturb the other patients. But it's been hard not to. These pills make me sleep, and when I'm asleep, at least I don't disturb anyone." These words are enough to demonstrate the elevation of the soul enclosed within a malformed body. Who could this poor creature have gotten such sentiments? Certainly not within the environment in which he has been raised. Moreover, he could not yet have possessed such an ability to reason at the age at which he had begun to suffer. These sentiments were thus inborn. However, if he was possessed of such noble instincts, and if we were to accept the fact that his soul was created at the same time as his body, the instrument of such cruel torture, why had he been condemned by God to such a miserable and painful life? Yes, one would either have to deny the goodness of God or accept anterior cause, that is, the pre-existence of the soul and the plurality of existences. The child is dead now, and his last thoughts were about God and about the caring doctor who had taken pity on him. After some time, his spirit was evoked by the Parisian Society, where he provided the following communications in 1863.
"You called me, and in order to touch all hearts, I have come to make my voice heard beyond this wall. May the vibrations of its echo reach people in their loneliness, and remind them that agony on earth prepares them for the joys of heaven, that suffering is nothing more than the peel of a delectable fruit that yields courage and resignation. That voice will tell them that upon the invalid's pallet of misery lie those sent by the Lord. Their mission consists in teaching humankind that there is no pain that is insufferable with the help of the omnipotent and good spirits. That voice will enable them to hear groaning mixed with prayer, and to understand pious harmony that is much different than the guilty tones of groaning mixed with blasphemy. One of your good spirits, a great apostle of Spiritism, has granted me his place tonight. I would like to take my turn to say something about the progress of your doctrine, which will aid the mission of those who incarnate amongst you in order to learn how to suffer. Spiritism will be the signpost. They will have have its example and voice to follow. Groaning will then be turned into cries of contentment and tears of joy.
From what you have said, it seems that your suffering was not an expiation of previous wrongs.
My suffering was not actually a direct expiation, but I can assure you that all suffering has a just cause. The one whom you knew as being so miserable had once been handsome, great, rich, and admired. I had flatterers and courtesans. I was vain and proud. I had once been truly guilty. I denied God and harmed my fellow beings, but I cruelly expiated my wrongs thereafter, first in the spirit world and then on earth. The suffering I endured for only a few years during my last and short existence, I bore for an entire lifetime into extreme old age and the existence before it. Through repentance, I re-entered the grace of the Lord, who entrusted me with several missions, the last one of which you are familiar with. I myself had asked for them in order to achieve my purification. Goodbye, my friends. I will return to you a few more times. My mission is to console, not to instruct. Nonetheless, there are so many here whose wounds lie hidden that they will be happy with my presence. Marcel.
We will return to our program after these messages.
Would you like to liberate yourself from your life struggles or to find inner balance? The Inner Journey CD has 3 beautiful visualizations that will help you bring harmony to your life. As Joanna DeAngeli tells us to, live in a way that you leave enlightening footprints in your pathway as if they were stars pointing out the pathway to happiness. To find this CD, go to the bookstore on the Spiritist Society of Baltimore webpage, www.ssbaltimore.org. That is www.ssbaltimore.org, and start your inner journey today.
Nourish your soul with Kardec Radio.
A new great book and tool for kids and educators. The children's book, Our Father by the Spirit May, psychographed by Chico Xavier, is available for purchase at www.edisayofamerica.com. Buy your copy today.
And now we return to our program.
Hello, dear Kardec Radio listeners, and welcome back to the Spiritist Moment. We continue on with our study of Part 3 of the Spirit's book, entitled The Moral Laws, Natural Divine Laws. Well, we learned something quite interesting from question 633. We learned that the Spirits teach us that pain is actually a great educator. And what does it educate us? Well, as the Spirits teach us, it educates us on alerting us of our moral boundaries. And as the Spirit says, they tell us that it traces out man's limits for his needs, our limits for our needs. It's a whole new perspective and definition for the word pain. Pain that is oftentimes has a bad rap. We don't like pain. We want to grab for a quick pill or a quick fix to get rid of it. When indeed, it is meant for us to be aware and to be alert, that when we feel pain, whether it's physical or emotional, it's there as an alert. We know that the physical body, and it's the way that God has designed it, anytime our body feels pain, it's an alert that something is wrong. And for some people who have health issues and do not feel pain, such as in cases of quadriplegia or paraplegics, who are unable to have that sensation of pain, we know that can cause a great deal of problems for them. So, dear friends, pain is actually something great. And the Spirits verify with us in question 633 of the Spirit's book when they alert us that it traces out our limits for our needs. So pain is an alert system for us. And what happens Why do we suffer? Why do we go through this pain? Well, we learn in question 631 that God gives us intelligence to distinguish between good and evil. So what happens when we don't use our intelligence to choose good or evil, to choose the wrong road? Well, we experience pain. We stray from the moral laws, from the moral path. And what is this moral law? What is the definition of the moral law? Well, we learn in question 621, basically the spirits tell us it is a rule for acting correctly or right. And they say that man takes the good of all as his main aim. That is being moral. And that is how and what we should aim for. Quite interestingly enough, we know that God doesn't create laws without giving us the proper tools to fulfill them. One of which being the intelligence and the capability of distinguishing good from bad, right from wrong. So indeed, we have within us the tools to choose the right path. And Kardec is so wise in question 631, 632, when he asks, well, some people still perhaps may claim that they didn't know any better. And the spirits reference something Jesus said a very long time ago: do unto others what you want done to you. The golden rule. When all else fails, when we're not sure how we should go, do unto others what you would have someone do to you. This is a golden rule, something for us to think about and use our intelligence to distinguish. Kardec is so wise in asking his questions because not one thing goes unsaid or unshared. So, dear friends, these are some thoughts we leave you with. This redefinition of what pain means to us in our lives. Instead of wanting to get rid of it when it first appears, let's utilize it with the instructions from the spirits as a map, as a compass for us to say, yes, we are on the right path. Yes, we are fulfilling the moral laws. If we feel less pain or more pain, allow it to be a true educator in our lives. So moving forward, we can make better decisions in our lives and also help all those along our pathway, redefining new perspectives and broadening our concepts and ideas. As always, dear friends, we urge you to go read, do your own study, enrich your mind, enrich your soul. And as always, we wish you many blessings.
Good morning, dear Kardec Radio listeners, and welcome to one more meeting with God at Home. I am Nauro Fonseca.
And I am Gabi Ferreira. Today's lesson is entitled The Crown and the Wings, Chapter 14 of the book Jesus in the Home by Spirit Neo Lúcio, psychographed by Chico Xavier.
In order to make the lesson a little more interesting for young children, we are going to ask you to do a few things as we develop the story. During the meeting in Simon Peter's house, they were discussing about the glories of knowledge when Christ told the following story.
Having been told that intellectual development could lead one to divine understanding, a truth-loving man decided to launch himself toward the top of the mountain of knowledge. The path was overcast like a dark labyrinth. However, the tireless fighter pressed on, overlooking every hardship and danger, and adapting along the way. He would, at one time, cast aside a tunic that had become too tight.
So now, if possible, please exchange a piece of cloth or an accessory like a hat or a pair of glasses with a partner. Ready? Go. Now let's continue the story.
Then, at another time, he would toss a sandal that had become useless. He continued to making use of new pieces of clothing until one day, many years later, he reached the top of the mountain.
One more time. Please exchange your shoes or another accessory with a partner. All right? Now let's hear who he met at the top of the mountain.
One of God's representatives came to greet him, embraced him, and adorned his brow with a dazzling crown of light.
Wow! Now that I have reached the top of the mountain of knowledge, How can I proceed on the path to heaven?
For that, you should retrace your steps in order to see the path you have traveled. This will determine whether or not you'll be granted the wings needed to meet the Heavenly Father. So the aspirant started back down, but now he could see clearer because of the light that came from his resplendent halo. He could not contain his laughter when he saw the strange clothes that the travelers making their own way to the top after him were wearing.
Hey you, look around. Isn't it funny to see what your partners look like with your clothes and accessories? But listen closely to the end of the story to find out why our traveler was laughing.
The winner of knowledge could not put up with the impression the scene was causing him, and he gave way to statements of ridicule, harshly condemning the ignorance of all those who were making their way in ridiculous or inadequate clothing. He spoke to the group of travelers with such sarcasm that many of them gave up the climb. After having cursed everyone, the crowned hero returned to the peak of the mountain.
Divine angel, and now, can I get my wings to go to heaven?
Unfortunately not, because you lacked mercy and understanding. Didn't you realize that the clothes that provoked you to such sarcasm were the very same ones that you had worn while climbing when you were fragile and half blind? You have to return to the path and help others. Otherwise, you'll never be able to find balance in heaven.
We have learned in Spiritism that the Spirit changes bodies as we change clothes. And as the Spirit evolves through many reincarnations, it climbs the mountain of knowledge, but not necessarily the mountain of love. They do not understand that the greatness of a man can be measured by his capacity for service for his fellow human beings, and for humility and for love. Where great men stand, they cast a shadow. But whatever men of greatness meet, there is an unquenchable light, pointing the liberating way to all creatures. As Joanna de Angelis recommends, be one of these men of greatness that concern more with helping others than with advertising their own acts.
Dear listener, what a blessing it is to know more about the laws of life, of the much that we have received today. Let us now join minds and hearts to pray for others. Prayer can be an effective remedy to renew our strength, to boost our virtues, and to teach us also how to reconcile with our enemies, if not only, but also pray for them. Even if we can't reconcile at the moment, let us pray, hoping that sooner than later we become more fraternal on the earth. So let us pray for all the victims of bullying. If we have never experienced this, and probably haven't, we don't know how much it hurts. Let us be in solidarity with those who have experienced it. It may not be easy. So we pray for all of you. Pray to you, dear God. We are all your children, and we know you never abandon us. And we go through certain challenges and trials in this life to strengthen our souls. So we ask you, give everyone who is feeling a victim of bullying, whether an adult or a child, give them strength, hope, and the opportunity of overcoming it. The sooner the better, for not only themselves, but all of their relationships. But we also pray here, dear Lord, for those who inflict pain and suffering in the lives of others, especially to the lives of our children. We pray that the bullies in everyone's lives receive a true invitation, a renewing invitation to their hearts, knowing that they are also children of God and there is no reason for them to spoil all the resources you give to all of us into this shameful exercise of their free will. May they feel a new beginning in their lives as they learn how to appreciate everyone's company in their lives, and learn that they are also children of God, and as such, we shall multiply the talents we were given and not spoil them. Thank you, dear Lord. Dear listener, in a week, we're going to come back and talk about a most interesting topic. We're going to be honored by the presence of Dr. Stafford Batty. He's going to be here with us talking about a much interesting article he wrote and we published at the Spiritist magazine latest issue. It's about why should Catholics join Spiritists in their belief in reincarnation. How interesting can that be? It's in the Spiritist magazine, the latest issue, issue 17, and you can access that at thespiritistmagazine.com. And come here next week and make your questions to Dr. Stafford Batty and let us hear about his case. He's building a case about it. Let us see what it is and open the forum for discussion and reflection. For the time being, we wish you many blessings.
Thank you for listening to Kardec Radio, broadcasting live every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Email us and share your comments at www.kardecradio.com. Until next time, we wish you many blessings.